Hey there, fellas. This is CJ17 Invader, and today I'll be signing on with the Tortoise. Now, a lot of people hate on this tank because it's slow. It has huge weak spots, and it's just I don't know. Just a lot of people don't like it, and I don't know why. I mean, I actually totally understand why, because I in fact hated this tank when I first got it. Even once I'd upgraded it, it's just it takes a lot of know-how with this line of tank destroyers. And if we go look at the whole tech tree for the British tank destroyers, they're all pretty much the same, starting from tier 5 all the way through tier 9. And these tanks are just, I don't know, some are good, some are bad. They're all very unique in that they're shaped like a brick, and they drive like a brick as well. But the Tortoise is the most dramatic of all of them. It has the biggest weak spots of any of the line, except for the AT8, which was a horrible tank, and I will never regret getting past that. But if we look at it, it's a big old tank, just like the rest of them. It's shaped very much like the rest of them. It's shaped just like the rest of them, where it's got the gun right in the middle. It's a casemate tank destroyer with a big old hatch stuck right on top of the tank. But the thing about the Tortoise, if we go look at the upgrades, it has a very, very good gun to start off with. Rate of fire, 9.14 rounds a minute. That's fully upgraded with the rammer loaded on it. But it has a very, very good gun with very, very good pen, and it has HESH, which is average penetration of 120 millimeters. The maximum, the maximum pen is 138 millimeters of penetration, which is enough to go through the sides of most heavy tanks, which I will demonstrate for you here in a little bit. But first, I need to talk to you about this armor profile. So, looking at sheer numbers, 228 millimeters of armor in the front, 152 millimeters of armor in the sides, and 101 millimeters of armor in the rear. Those are huge numbers for armor, regardless. Even the E75 does not have 152 millimeters of side armor. However, just because you have good armor, that just shows the strongest points. The strongest part of the armor on this tank is around the gun. And unlike the rest of the line, where you can just hide the hatch behind a corner and shoot, this tank takes a lot more finesse, because the side that doesn't have a hatch on it is flat, and that creates a huge weak spot, because 229 millimeters sounds great until you go look at an average gun for tier 9, like, let's say, I don't know, the E75 or the E50, either one, E50. With the top gun, it gets 220 millimeters of pen, but 270 with APCR. So mediums can penetrate that front plate right on the top, and that's a pretty big area. Looking at the Leopard, yeah, average pen is 255, which way overmatches that front plate right there. So your little 229 millimeters of armor on the front is not going to get you anywhere. Always run the armor equipment. Run rammer. You want to run the gun laying drive, because you're going to have to fire this while you're spinning, because it's very slow and your teammates will leave you behind. So you're going to kind of be the last front that the enemy team sees, unless you really, really know how to put it in a good position, and even then you're still going to get circled by mediums and sometimes heavies. And that's why I'm very glad this tank has one of the most insane traverse numbers I've seen on a tank this heavy. It can traverse at almost 33 degrees a second. That's ridiculous, because this tank is just so heavy. So it's very, very slow, but it can spin, which is extremely beneficial for you, because that means you can wiggle. And that's one of the things you have to learn to do with this tank, is really move that tank to make your weak spots hard to hit, because they're going to pin. That's a fact. They're just going to go through that armor. But if you can bait shots, you can stick out that front corner and show them that flat weak spot right on the front, and then right as they're about to shoot, swing, and they're still aiming there, they'll hit that corner and bounce. And that's what you have to do. You can even turn a lot like that, use the heavily armored gun ball to bounce their shots. You can cut the other way if they're on your right. They'll be aiming at the hatch. You can turn your tank to the left, and the side of the hatch is not that weak. The side of the hatch has good armor. So if they're aiming with a standard pinned shell at your hatch, and you cut at the last second, they'll hit the corner of that of the hatch right there, and they're just going to bounce straight off. And I'm going to demonstrate that for you now in a replay from earlier. The game I'm going to show you is on mines, and it's a pretty solid team comp on both sides. So it's a tier 8 game, which is where this tank really excels, especially with the armor. So there are two play styles for the Tortoise. You can either be extremely aggressive and get up in people's faces and just use the insane 6.6 second reload and out DPM them, or you can sit in the back and be very, very passive. Either way, you're going to have to use that DPM and the pen to kill people, because you don't have an extremely high alpha. It's just a 120mm gun. You're gonna come. So I'm gonna come up, and in this game, I'm gonna be very passive because the Tortoise does not fight well when people are above you, and it doesn't fight well necessarily up in people's faces and on hills. Because no matter how good your gun depression is, which this tank has very good gun depression, by the way, that hatch is gonna stick up long before you do, and everybody's gonna target that. And I've played enough games on this map with this tank to know that pushing up on this map is not the way to do it. There are certain maps where you can get up in people's faces, like Himmelsdorf. Himmelsdorf is a great example. You don't want to sit in the back because everybody can see you because it's flat ground. See, there's that gunball swing. He hit the gunball. He didn't hit the hatch. I didn't give him time to hit it. He bounced straight off. Then I go invisible again. And use the good gun arc, because every tank in this line has good gun arc and pretty good accuracy. This gun is very accurate, especially if you wait for the gun to aim in all the way. Very good accuracy. You won't get derp. You won't derp shells very often. But this tank is just, it's not good on certain maps like Himmelsdorf. I already said this kind of, but you want to get up in people's faces because you have lots of buildings you can hide behind, lots of corners you can play tricks on, and that's fine. But maps like this, where there's lots of hills, you don't want to engage up close, because they're just going to be able to shoot your hatch over the top of the hill long before you can ever get your gun on them. And so I'm sitting in the back. It's a pretty slow game at the start. I'm just waiting for them to poke up so I can do some damage. I notice our team is starting to lose more hit points than their team already. I've done 1,200 damage at this point, but that's not relevant, really. Because no matter how good you are doing, if your team's collapsing, it's going to be a lot harder for you. So I'm sitting here just trying to keep them from poking over the top of that hill, because I'm trying to protect our heavies and our Jag Tiger that decided to get up in their faces. I decide now it's go time. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to sit underneath the top of the hill. And, yeah, I tried to get the SU to come up with me. He did not oblige, but it was probably better in this instance that he didn't. But at the time, it seemed like it would be a good idea. Bounce a shot from the T-34. See, moving side to side, you're gonna juke shots, and they're gonna miss. It's not necessarily like the E75 where you can just go up, angle, and people are just gonna bounce because they just can't deal with that heavy armor. This tank, you have to finesse them a little bit, and that was a great shot by the SU right there. He played this very, very well. But there's just nothing we could do at this point. I'm taking damage from T-30s. I hate T-30s, especially when they're hull down. But right here, I have a nice spot. I can angle my armor. See that little bounce, that wiggle bounce? That's what I was talking about. Using my dead teammate to cover my hatch and my weak spot on the right. Angle, wiggle, bounce another round. This is exactly the kind of playstyle you should be using. Be aggressive, not too aggressive. Let the SU finish the T-30. Excellent job by him. He's spot on at the moment. Just keep putting in damage every time they expose themselves. if you're going to hit point trade, make sure you're hit point trading correctly. Rolled extremely high on him to kill him. That was good. Bounce another round from the T-54. They said get back Tortoise, and there's not any way I can get back, not with the T-54 he won there. But he ran out of shells, so I decided to pull back, try to draw the M103 forward, get him shot. Don't know where the SU went. M103 pulled a dumb move right here, which should have gotten him killed, but my gun's not loaded yet. I tried to bounce another shell to my side. He hit my hatch. Nothing I can do there. It's just nothing I can do. Going to spectate the SU. He should have been able to carry this. I don't know what happened in his mind here. He's a very good player. He did a very good job up to this point. But he just didn't shoot when he had the chance here. And he bounced around off of the T-54 he won. He should have killed the M103. See, that was the shot that got him killed. Because now the M103 is going to finish him, and there's just nothing he can do. But it was very well played on his part, and I did my part definitely. But if you look at how I was wiggling the Tortoise back and forth, that is how you should be playing. I bounced a lot of rounds on that. Looking down, hits received 14. Half of the rounds I received, without damage, 7. Half of the rounds I received did not go through just because I was juking rounds and absorbing shots. And that's what the Tortoise really does well. And I'm going to show you a brawl where I use the Tortoise as Hesh on the side of on the side of some fairly heavy tanks to accomplish some good deeds here. I decided that it was a fairly well-distributed team comp. 2 heavies, 2 mediums, 2 tank destroyers, and a light on their team. 2 heavies, 2 tank destroyers, 2 lights, and a medium on our team. So it's fairly well matched in this game. I decided I was going to see if their heavies rushed the right side like teams often do in this map for whatever reason. The heavies, they should know that little section over there is what I like to call Death Alley, where heavies go and the tank destroyers in the back corner just put shot after shot in, and they get brutalized in very violent ways. I was going to see if their heavies were going to try to do it. Our heavies were definitely doing it. Fortunately enough for them, they didn't have any real big guns on their team. The biggest gun they had was the Jag Tiger, and he went to the left. As you can see on the map and over there on my screen, he's over there with their SU. And our team starts struggling right off the bat. The lights got pushed on by tanks they didn't expect. And the element of surprise is a very genuine thing in this game. It's not as powerful as just sheer good teamwork, but if your team works together and surprises a couple of tanks on the other team, you're almost guaranteed to win. So I'm sitting here, trying not to get spotted. I see the Jag Tiger side. Then I switch to the HE shell, the Hesh shell. And I hit the AMX's gun, and it still damages the Jag Tiger. Which is why Hesh is nice, because it's a very powerful shot. And if you look, that was a good shot. That was a 531 damage roll. Damaged his ammo rack. He turns, and I fire an ammo rack him right here. 968 damage. Very, very good shell. Very fortunate. But looking around, there's nothing really for me to do at this point. I see the T-49. I fire. Low roll because I hit his track. Hesh is still an HE shell. Don't think it's not an HE shell. If you hit tracks or spaced armor, you're going to do low damage. And that's just unfortunate. So I saw the T-49 running over here, and I figured I was going to try to spot him right here, put a Hesh shell through his turret. It didn't happen that way. Not right off the bat. So I see the T-44, wondering, can I get a lucky shot through his turret or something? But he never came forward. So I start traversing, and if you look, see those traverse numbers? Look, it just looks weird. A tank that can't go faster than 20 but can spin like nobody's business, it's ridiculous. And I'm not complaining. I love this tank. Don't get me wrong. It's a hard play style, but once you figure it out, you're golden. Looking, seeing if the low comes forward. That's a negative. I turn. T-49 shoots my teammate. Unfortunately, does some heavy damage to him over there. I come over, load Hesh. Fire. Low roll again because I hit his track again. AMX is coming up behind me. I want to take out that T-49. So I put another Hesh shell in, and this time it goes through his front plate, rolls high, kills him. T-44 rams me. I'm taking a beating at this point. I back up, he rams me again. I start spinning, and I traverse, fire, kill the T-44, load Hesh for the AMX 5120. Because his sides are very weak. Ammo rack him. That's 2 ammo racks in one game. Hesh is my favorite type of shell at this point. I load AP for the FCM. He just does not give me a shot. He bounces. I just don't have a shot on him. SU rushes me. I bounce his round, take the low round. SU comes forward. I fire on him. There's nothing I can do at this point. I did almost 5,000 damage in tier 9. And that's very, very good. This thing's damage per minute, when they don't focus on you, is very, very good. And you can do some serious messed up things to other tanks. I had 4 kills. To carry that, I literally would have had to kill 7 tanks. And that's just ridiculous. There's just nothing I can do there. Not with the hit point pool that I had. But again, that was very, very good. That shows you the power of Hesh, kind of. Hesh is a very, very good shell. The FV-183, the tank that I'm working towards with this tank, is very, very good because it has such a high damage Hesh shell. I think its max roll is 1,625 damage, which is enough to make people want to cry and curl up in a corner. And now I'm going to show you what happens when you combine the elements of Hesh and your Traverse and your DPM. Oh, and your armor. Forget about that sometimes. So this is a pretty slow game off the bat. I mean, everything's a slow game in the Tortoise. It's just slow. I'm just kind of sitting here driving along, doing my thing, looking around at my team, checking to see where all they're going, looking to see if I have enough support on this side to even do anything useful. And I'm going to utilize this gun depression a little bit so you get to see how effective the gun depression is. I decide not to push forward because their heavies are always waiting around that building. I drive around this building so I don't give them any shots. I don't know what's over there at this point. I just don't want to risk it. It's not worth it. Because that's a thing that happens in the Tortoise sometimes, is they'll push up really hard and you'll still be driving to try to get to a position. And everybody and their mom just decides they're going to shoot at you. And I push. I'm sitting here using my gun depression, hiding most of my tank. The hatch is sticking up, but the KPZ doesn't have good gun depression, so I know he's not going to get a shot without heavily exposing himself. He pulls forward over here. I swing around the corner, put a shell in, and he's pretty much dead at this point. My teammates decide to eliminate him off the face of the planet. They both shoot him. He's dead. Good job. And then I go back up this hill, utilize the tank destroyer camouflage, even if it is the size of a small apartment complex. I decide I'm still going to try to do some damage while invisible. And I look at the Indian Panzer over here, and I see him giving our tanks some hell. So I wait till he pokes out, fire, and he's dead. He's eliminated. Waffenträger over here is giving our heavies hell. So I sit here, look around, try to figure out what I need to shoot at. The RU's over there. I load Hesh just because it's an RU, I think. Yeah, 585, that's a good opportunity to shoot Hesh. 304. I decide just to shoot armor piercing because of his health. Try to put a shell in his turret, and just don't get a shot. Go back to the Waffenträger over here. And I preemptively fire into this bush because I don't know when he's going to expose, and I want to try to discourage him from poking out there because I don't want him to spot me and shoot my side. So I'm looking. He's still over there. I'm very uncomfortable at this point. I think the last things my teammates managed to do is kill him. The RU, I fire, I don't hit him. He goes invisible, unfortunately. I get spotted because I fired, and there's a light tank right there. I back up, don't give him shots. Pull around this hill. There's a T-54 over here. I don't want him getting on my rear because his gun will mess me up. I blow a shot on him. But that's fine because he's going to do something really dumb here. And he forgets about my DPM, I guess. And then he tries to... I don't know what he was doing here. I think he was going to try to take out the IS-8. Or he was going to try to come up my side. And he's over there, so I put a shell into him. Hoping the IS-8 will do something useful and kill him. Does not happen that way. At least the Waffenträger's dead. I don't know who killed him. I guess it was the Glacial. That RU is really making me uncomfortable at this point. I know there's a tank behind me with a bigger gun, but that pile of rocks is protecting me. I see the RU coming around, so I turn. T-54's coming. Aim in, fire, kill him. T-30 has the stock gun, which was very, very fortunate for me in this situation. It's a 1v3 at this point. I'm not thinking that I have much of a chance. I decide to pull a little trickery right here. RU's going to put another shot in. That's fine. I don't care. I start spinning. And I fire and kill him. He did not expect me to do that, which is why he didn't run. T-30 puts in another shell. Then I push around this corner, trying to... I'm really worried about where that IS-5 is, and here he is. I'm still worried about him, but not that worried. I put a shell in. He hits my hatch right here somehow. Don't know how he did it. I know that T-30 is going to get greedy and push for a kill, so I fire, kill him. IS-5, I fire again. Put a shell into him. He bounces. I don't think he even shoots. I mess him up bad. I kill his gunner and his driver, and the IS-5's dispersion is horrible, so I know he's trying to aim at a weak spot, and he just doesn't have time to do anything. And that is how you carry in the Tortoise, ladies and gentlemen. That is what the Tortoise does best, and that is why I like to call it the carrying machine, because the damage per minute, the trollish armor, and the traverse, and the gun depression make for a very, very solid tank that has very, very solid powers and can just do pretty much whatever it needs to do. So don't hate on the Tortoise. Yes, it's very, very bad until you max it. It's a horrible grind. It's almost as bad as the stock T-54 grind. But it's just, this tank is so much better than a lot of other tanks, like the E-50, which I can't stand. At least stock. I've never played it maxed. I'm sure it'll be good maxed. But it's hard to play, but it's not as hard to play as some Tier 9 tanks. I'm looking, trying to see if there's anything I can compare it to. They just recently buffed the 122-54, so it actually has much better DPM because it has a higher alpha, I believe. Yeah, it has a higher alpha with a higher rate of fire, which is ridiculous, but it doesn't have the armor you do. It's fast. I'm probably going to work on this line pretty soon. I don't know. I haven't decided what I'm going to do next. But overall, the Tortoise is a very, very good tank. And I strongly encourage anybody who's thinking about getting the FV line to take this tank seriously and use those tips I gave you. Swing the tank, bounce round, side scrape. Use that heavy side armor. That's heavier side armor than the Russian Tier 8 than the Russian Tier 8 heavy. It's heavier armor than the IS-4 on the sides. And this tank is just very, very good because of the traverse and the gun, really. So I think that concludes my video, and that will be CJ17 Evader signing out.